Okay, you know what it is. It's your boy, Kamal Hart. I'm back on the chart. I'm about to go bar by bar. I want to not take my time today, but take it slow. Really break down all the setups that I see. Lately, I've been scaling back on my setups, focusing on two setups that have been the most profitable for me, and not branching out past that. So, not going to be as many trades today. I'll still try to mark the things that I see that are aggressive, but pertaining to what I'm taking, it's going to be a little. I'm cool with that, and these are for me, so that's all that matters. So there's our midline ish in there. If we were pulling up at 4, but we pulled up more like 5:30, somewhere in there. Um, so we're at the highs of this range area, but we're also congesting here at the highs as well. Um, it's going to get a little complicated if I do this, but I think it's kind of necessary. Um, so essentially, what I'm looking at is there's a high up here, and I am in theory looking for shorts, but there's also a an area right here where I need to be buying at the lows or preferably selling up here. So right now we're kind of in the middle. I'm going to wait for those, either one of those two things. And you see when we got up here, we got that kind of like a double top. A little bit where your entry sets up, that's a little too close to this area. So that's not a trade we're into. Um, and then you get a nice bar right there. Just the first entry to the high though. So it's at the lows of this range, but you're kind of fighting whatever might be up here as well. So we're going to wait. Um, that pulls back, and on that pullback, it looks nice, but it's just happening too close to the highs of whatever this thing is. So that isn't the one we're looking for. But we break out, so that's good. Um, my first line, I really do see a trend coming from down here, probably like right through there. You can see there's 3 touches, 1, 2, 3, then 4th, 5. It's been holding prices right through there. So, and that's been actually the way more of the market has been moving the past couple of weeks. It kind of gets to the highs of the range and then breaks out and trends higher. So, not too surprising seeing anything like this, because normally for me to make a micro line, I'm going to wait for one more pullback to just officially make this a breakout pullback. You could say this bar is pretty much the pause bar for the breakout pullback. It's not that clean. I'll just wait for another one. And it does go far, but so to me, until here, this is just a breakout, and I'm expecting it to probably come back and test these highs. So when it breaks lower here, I'm not looking to actually take a short. I'm looking to see what it does and maybe buy in this instant, because we do have this channel. And what I've deduced it to being is that, I draw my short-term lines just to keep me out of dumb trades and help me set up the timing. But I want to trade the bigger patterns, right? Those are going to give you your bigger targets. Those are going to give you the most sharp entries, um, best risk reward scenarios. The risk reward scenario up in here isn't that good compared to what it was down here and over here. So, in that vein, when we break above and then on this next bar break higher, I'm looking at this as a failed second entry off this low. First entry fails, then the second entry fails. It's aggressive though. Um, and if you look at our channel, it is happening. It's off the midline. I think to me this trade was probably like B minus setup, maybe even just B flat or B normal. But for this week particularly, I want to focus on at least A setups. So I didn't take that. I didn't like how far it was from the EMA. I could name a few reasons why I was like, eh. But if you're aggressive and following the system and pushing the envelope, probably an aggressive trade. Just need to be careful to see what it does. If it makes it up in here, it's kind of hard to grab the lines today. When it makes it up to that line, you need to kind of look and see what it does. But it's an aggressive trade. And that thing goes, and you see how it does start to get that resistance as it gets there. It tries to break out, doesn't get a clean breakout. And maybe this line is a little higher, give or take. But once it starts responding like this off the line, you know that it's something there. Then it pulls back, right? So in reality, I'm still looking to go long. On the daily chart, Mac talks about this a lot. I wish I had my line for the open, but from where we opened over here, just about in here, there's a gap on the daily chart to this gold line. So prices do tend to fill gaps, and it's no surprise if we are headed that direction to fill that gap. So, and maybe it's not to fill that gap, but there's a high probability that the gap will be filled on most days. So we're pulling back. That's cool. In fact, that first entry triggered right there. So the next time it pulls back for a move higher, if it's a good signal bar, I'm interested in buying it. And like right there, it broke above, but it's kind of a red bar. I guess I did say the next time it pulls back, but really what we're talking about is when it broke above and moved lower, we want to see it more off this trend line in the EMA. But now that this is kind of, I would say the second entry trade is busted because it triggered right there, right? So that trade is busted. Now I have to wait for it to hit this line, make the higher low, and then make a failed second entry, and I'm gonna try to buy that. So, you could micro trend this just because it's now like a reversal pattern. So I just go from there to there. That's just a reversal pattern, just a small trend. We're not really looking to go short, but what we are looking to see is if it breaks out, moves to a new low, goes higher, or it breaks out, can't make a new low and goes higher. Those will tell us just little things. So we actually pushed through the EMA briefly. And you can see how you kind of go sideways for a little bit. It breaks outside. Not super convincing. It's a little more convincing by this bar. And then it's made that new low. You're seeing some support. And it's for sure kind of breaking out, made a new low. And you can see there's a higher low right here. So not a great signal bar, not where we're looking to buy it, but that's what we need. So on that next pullback, I'm going to try to go long and see if we get a retest of the highs or this close, something like that. Right. So we're waiting, get a nice kind of surge for a second, another little push, and then here is where I took my only ES trade today. Going into this trade, I can tell you that it's probably a B plus setup, maybe a B minus, only because I can immediately see that there's congestion on my signal bar, right? Because the signal bar is inside of that bar, which is inside of this one. So that right there tells me that, man, kind of going long in the middle of a range. The idea that I'm holding though is that whatever this is going to be stronger than this kind of congestion area. I don't know if that's necessarily the case and that's necessarily the way to think about it. I think the best setups, the very best setups, are going to confirm on the big scale and confirm on the lower scale. I think the next best setups will confirm on the big scale, but not on the lower scale. Um, and then the next, or I guess the next worst setups are going to confirm on the small scale, but not on the big scale, because those setups are going to be bad risk reward. Um, and then, of course, the last, which there's no reason to even take those trades, is like impulse trades where there's no real setup. So right there, I can tell you, like, I'm looking at this entry and I'm like, oh man, I'm ignoring this. I'm ignoring the congestion that's clearly right there. So that's a big part of what happens with this trade, right? So then on this next bar, once again, that doji closes right inside of it, still stacking up. Then boom, breaks above and I enter. So when it broke above, the trade triggered, whatever. The next easy, obvious signal for a scratch is that when it broke above, it closed back inside of the range of the previous candle. So that right there is telling me that not that many people got trapped short. It's not going to have that same type of surge. And without that surge, this could very easily just go back and forth, at least enough to stop you out. I don't really care. I'm just taking this trade. I'm ignoring all that right now. I'm just seeing if this momentum is going to carry us. Um, it's not that I don't care. It's just that I have my stop. Once this bar closed, I had my stop 2 ticks below that bar. So 1, 2, 33.21, 2 ticks. It seems super tight, but I've done some research on how after that 2 tick move, it probably is going to hit your stop anyway. So you end up saving yourself a few ticks. But so I have my stop right there. My risk is super low. I I should have exited this trade, but I had really low risk, so I wasn't tripping. Which it ticked 1 tick on this. I had just one past it, so my bad. Maybe that was yeah, um 33.2075. So it ticked one below. I'm just waiting. I already know this isn't looking like a good setup. At this point, I should be scratching. I just that was a management error. At this point, it's totally a management error. You should be trying to exit. And then on this next bar, it ticks just one below, stops me out. And then on this bar, you can see how even if your stop was underneath the signal bar, you would have got stopped out anyway as well. So could have just saved yourself a little bit of money. And doing this little thing right here can really help you in drawdown. Like, when you're in drawdown, like this will keep your losses small, this little trick. But then something sets up here. This is probably the first setup that you possibly are going to take. I don't think it's probably like a C setup, but it's just a rejection bar at the lows of the range. The failed second entry trade failed, so it's like a re-entry trade. It kind of fits the overall context as well, and it's going to fit the context of this smaller range. At least we're going to come up to here, in a high probability chance. So it's a little aggressive. I don't think if I didn't take this trade, I don't think that I would have taken this one. But when I'm being more aggressive and in tune with the market, I could definitely see that being a trade. Um, and that one gets a little juice on it. Makes a higher low, kind of like a breakout pattern. This is like a breakout pullback of this area. See how it broke above, closed back inside. Now it's closing back above. It's kind of like a breakout pullback. So I would look at that and probably off there. It's a little sideways, so this trend line might not be as accurate as we need it to be, but it'll just be a guideline for now. And it actually doesn't break above, so kind of makes this sideways momentum a little stronger. And it keeps going sideways like that. It makes it definitely stronger. So at this point, this is what we're looking at for the day. I start to look at this and want to expand it and say, okay, well, maybe We have a bigger range. And that range is somewhere like that. You can see how that's just off the highs from before as well, back in here. And see how this almost, it kind of misses, but it could be the midline, especially if it's like up here. That looks a little closer to a midline. So, you know, the big kind of stacks on top of the small. That helps you keep generating new ideas. It's kind of like a fractal, if that makes any sense. So I'm looking to buy somewhere down here. So pull back. That's kind of a big pullback, or big breakout. I want to see if it pull back, breaks out. I want to see if it just pulls back. You know, this big bar, aggressive to enter here. A lot of the same methodology of taking this trade goes into this trade, but this is a little bit of a strong breakout. I want to see a higher low at least. And it doesn't break above, so there's no trade yet. Breaks above there. See how it breaks above there? And it's kind of almost setting up that breakout pullback. But it ticks below, then goes higher. So this is more so what we want to see for the long, right? We're going to start to see if this makes another move down, and then we're going to try to buy that. Here's the move down, and then boom, when it broke above, right there. Geez, I don't know why that Windows thing keeps popping up. Sorry about that. This video is probably getting too long. But yeah, once it breaks above right there, in real time, you know, you're going to see it tick, tick, tick one above. Once it ticked one above, just put your limit right there, put your stop right there. And, you know, really your target is the scalp, the other side of this trend channel, this gap area. I did take a leg from this. If you're, you know, really looking for the big run, you know, it could be something like that. But you have a couple different targets on the way to that. And that one does okay. You get another pullback right there. I kind of like this trade if I'm not looking at this range anymore. Let's see where that sets up on the range. And even if it is, I like how that sets up. See how that's set up right on the middle, that midline? Those tend to work well, and those tend to still work. Below and the middle usually are fine. So it's a little aggressive to me, but so like I'd say this trade is not aggressive. I'll make it blue just for distinction purposes. And this trade, you know, B minus type trade. So we're going, when it breaks above and closes above, that's, we're all in. If anything, we just have a stop 2 ticks below this bar now. But we're just going to wait. And the 2 tick stop gets stopped for sure. Let's see if it hits your signal. And it would have hit your signal as well. So that one didn't quite work. And once again, you look at that and you do have to ignore this range. And that's where your psychology maybe could play a role, is that at what point do I decide that, oh yeah, I'm not using this range anymore? I think, see how my range is short? By the time I'm trading it over here, I'm kind of under this impression like, oh, we're not necessarily in the range anymore, we're trending. But I think really what I need to do is not only make them longer, but even if they are shorter, before I say, oh, this range is done, this range is over, even if we're over here trading and I don't have the lines, I still need to see it break out, pull back, and keep going higher. And that's like the real, like it's not done. Because at any point, like who's to say this is where the line stops? Obviously, for all the other traders, that line kept going, right? So I didn't actually take that trade during my session, but looking at it now and ignoring some, you know, really small things, it just sets you up with a loss. So let's see. Let's try to stop ignoring anything. That's trading. Like I don't know. I don't get every trade right, but what I am getting better at is managing every trade the way it's supposed to be managed, and that keeps me in the game the right way. So we're getting that stack up on this midline bar. I can put the midline bar on there. You can kind of see it now that there's definitely like a range going on. So if you really, I think off this low, once it kind of moved above, I should have really, this is how I had my chart earlier in the day. I think there's always that thing about after a full day of work and running around and doing stuff, when I come back and do this review, sometimes I just see things different. So that's how it goes. First entry, it's on the right side of the range, but that signal bar is not that great. So I'm cool off that one. Pulls back. And then here, I like this. This is a second entry. It's on the right side of the range. It's a double bottom off those bottoms. Second entry long, first entry pullback, second entry. Um, we're not at these lows. That's a little bit weird. But if you are taking the setups that it's showing, this is definitely going to be one of them. It's blue. Maybe it should be green. I'm not sure yet. Um, and that one plays out pretty well. Of course, target is the scalp, another one on the high, and then you have another one at the gap area as well. So it breaks out. Look how it goes right to that line, and then gets a rejection bar. That's a nice look. Um, but it eventually breaks it. And I guess here in the process, what we're looking at is it broke out of our range. This is our pullback. If it keeps going higher, we're going to look for longs off this area. Um, I think I'm trying to get an idea of where we are in the process. Off this range, if I just go like the midline, okay, that gets us kind of in this area. So yeah, just kind of like a breakout. See what happens. So here's the breakout pullback. I'm going to draw the line, but of course, these trades are going to be a little aggressive until we get a true pullback, like a two-legged pullback or something. Um, so we can work with that. Let's see how that holds. You can already see it's kind of going sideways at the highs and not a convincing break. And it gets a surge bar, but off this slow, maybe you could have, but nah, not. It's not so easy to buy it when it looks like that. Um, First entry, it's still kind of going sideways, kind of like going sideways, breaking higher. For sure, I'm going to consider this as a breakout side. Well, let's see. Let me think about this. 'Cause if I made my line more wide off these lows, that holds prices a lot better for a lot longer. And when I bring it off the highs, it's not going to fit quite the same, but I think it ends up pretty much in the, yeah, see, this is a nicer channel, I think. So really, this might be the first break. I still don't think you would have entered any of these, but this might be the first break. Okay, that's for sure a break. Testing that high, there's a second entry long right there, but that signal bar isn't good. We're not off the EMA. It is a, but see what I said, it is a two-legged pullback. See, first leg back, pull back, second leg back. It's a two-legged pullback sideways, but the signal bar, it's funny. When I see these trades, I like to just put them in the C category because it's the technical setup, but you just got a bad, signal bar or whatever. But look, that's what the setup, I think, helps you for the system is that when you don't get a setup, a good signal bar, you'd be surprised to see that it doesn't always go that far without you. So, and it doesn't stop you out, but it threatens to. And then, truly, I'm not into that setup. You might take this one just because it's like a triple bottom at this point. When you see that, it's like a triple bottom. It's not really in my strategy, so I'm not going to mark it, but that looks like some strong support. So maybe you would have really entered there, and that's a better entry and everything. So there you go. So really, it's pretty obvious it's going sideways at this point. What isn't as obvious is that if it is going sideways, we've already broken out, and is this breakout the test higher? And if it is, we just got a bunch of matching tops. So it can't really go higher from here. It's having a hard time getting higher. And then it finally kind of breaks outside there. When it does that break, I would at least just look for this and see if we're gonna get up there. Be a little aggressive and big move, but it's there. Once we get setups, that's what we'll be looking at. Big red bar at the highs after a breakout side. Um, Interesting to note that it's a second entry. Off these lows, they can all become one, moves higher, breaks lower, and then once it breaks below right there, that's a second entry. That is in the setup. That's in the strategy. Um, you only need one reason because it's a trading range, and it fits the small context, and there's a second entry. So I don't know if this works, but that's a setup. Yeah, that one does. You would at least got the scalp. I don't know. If your target's down here, you're still waiting. Here's the higher low. If it breaks below right there, it's a little nasty, and it's like right into that EMA. So I don't think I want to add on. But if I'm still holding this, I'll probably still hold. That bar looks really good. And then that one, you know, yeah, I don't know. That is it's funny. This is the better trade that you should be waiting for. I don't like the setup as much as I like this setup. So I think I should put it on there, but just say that it was aggressive and that because lately what we've been doing is getting to the highs and then breaking higher. So going short into this EMA makes me nervous. I would have rather been below it. But we're on the right side of the range, even of this micro. See how it triggers on the high side. So it can be there, but it's a lot easier when you see that. But it's there. It's a setup. If I was to grade that setup, I say that setup is definitely B plus, A minus. Like this one is definitely like B minus, B, like a B, just a solid B. This is definitely A minus. This is the one to get just down to there. All this is extra. Yeah, like all that is extra. You have no idea. You probably, there's not even a way to predict you're going to get that unless you just, for whatever reason, had your stop down here and you're looking at it like, your stop down here, you're looking at some big range or something, but my target really was just there. Okay, so we're breaking out. What I'm looking for now is a pullback entry to continue trending, or if we pull back, let's see how far we pull back until we're back in the range. Here's a second entry long, right there. First entry, second entry. I know a lot of this is like the reverse of whatever the idea was up here. So like this trade is in my system. Um, double bottom right there. Yikes. I mean, I don't think I would take that trade, but it's in the system. I want to see if it would work. So let's say we put our trade in. Okay, well, luckily it doesn't trigger, so you wouldn't have had to actually enter. So. That would have been a trade if it broke above. You're still probably holding, right? Right. It happened here, but here's what's different on this one. This signal bar, even though it's green, is an inside bar of this red bar. So, see how this one matches the lows? I like that better than when it doesn't match the low. So when it broke above there, you're not even out of the trade. So even though it broke above, your stop would have been below this red bar. So technically you're not even out yet. And let's see. Oh no, I don't know if that's enough for the scalp. 2350, 2475. Yeah, you got the scalp if you entered on a limit. Let's see if you can get more though. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, so what I want to think about now really, see, and that's what I mean with this scalp. It's like the setup is there, but the context is wrong. There's not too many lines to even support a reason to buy it. It's like kind of like a dumb, it's definitely like this trade is a D trade. It's like, it's there, but why would you take that one? But really, what I'm interested in is thinking about where is the breakout pullback? If we have this leg out and it breaks above, see how it broke below there, but it didn't close? I don't want to consider that a breakout pullback. That's kind of like a reversal sign. So as it keeps pulling back, once it closes below this bar, okay, this is the earliest signal for the breakout pullback. That's the earliest signal. I don't like how it cuts this stuff. I'd almost rather get the most recent swing so I can keep it as relevant to this as possible. So something like that is cool with me. Yeah, once it closes below, that is the breakout pullback. If it moves below, that's one thing, but it needs to close below a previous bar. I can consider that the breakout pullback. Even if it reverses from here, that's fine, but this is just giving me context. Starts to trend lower. Really, there was a second entry, missed it, but there's a second entry short. See off these lows? First entry, second entry. It's one of those like the signal bar is not that good, but the trigger bar closed really well, and it closed pretty close to your entry. So this is like a C setup. It's like the technicals are there, the signal is kind of off, but the way it let you enter, like if this thing would have closed way down here, then no, I'm not entering down here. But it closed basically where your stop would have been anyway. So if you're being aggressive, if you're being risky, you might have taken that. And if you were a little bit more hip to this leg down, you might have taken that. Next thing I'm doing is going to measure this leg right there is leg 1, and then check out this area, see how close to that we get. Swing high happened right here, so this is a higher low, inside bar higher low. I don't even trade the higher low right now, so I'm not concerned with that. Here's the failed second entry. Okay, kind of back to what we saw back over here. This bar is inside of that bar, and it's inside of that bar. So that's congestion. The setup is once it breaks below this red bar, you'd enter the trade. But I don't like the congestion right through there. So it's hard. This is really tempting. I think in terms of the setup, this is an A setup. It's off the trend line. It's not close to this EMA. So maybe it's like a B setup. It looks good. Like it looks really good, but there's some context stuff going on that's not so great. But this is really tempting to go short right there, but I think I have to skip it. See? It's the same thing that happened over here. The only reason why I knew this is a likelihood is because I took the trade over here. This is the same thing, just reversed. It stacks up sideways, it triggers, it gets you a little bit, and reverses, stops everything out. You know, only nice thing about this trade, if you take it, that's what I'm saying. Like the key really isn't about the key is trade selection, because if you keep choosing the wrong trades, then of course you're not going to make money. But after that, the next most important thing is just your trade management, because look at this entry bar. When this red bar, when it breaks below with this green bar, once this green bar closes, your stop goes 2 ticks above this green bar. So you get stopped out right there, 33.20, 50. And then if you were waiting behind the signal bar, you get stopped out anyway at 33.21, 25. So like when you're trading 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 contracts, that difference is huge, huge. So I really like this new strategy. It oftentimes, I mean, there are a few times where it hits your stop and then keeps going, but most times it gets both stops anyway. So you save yourself a few bucks. I think what I'm looking for now, I actually don't have this in my playbook. This is something I need to add is there's a reentry trade coming, right? Because this is the failed second entry long, and that fails. So the next good red signal bar we see, I think you can buy that. That isn't a good red signal bar, so I think that idea gets busted. Now we just have to look for like a second entry short off there. You can see the momentum. You saw it. Did you see that? See the closes and the momentum? That's really subtle. See it like the blue and red line? Look how it just ticked lower. It's real subtle, and back to that reentry. See that? See that reentry idea? This wasn't a good setup, but maybe on someone else's chart, it did look like a really nice sell bar. You can see the type of momentum it got. All the people who got trapped here either re-entered, or more people saw this trap and were waiting for this moment, and they entered there. So, man, today's taking a while. Okay, so let's look at our context now. Let's figure out where we are in the big picture. A couple things are going on. We're back in this range area, so we need to see. Yeah, you see, there's a bounce right there. I think you got to see if this leads to any sort of confluence right there. It kind of does. There's only a small breakout, but you can see that if you make that trend bigger, in a subtle way, you can just expand that range and it becomes, I'll make it bigger. It becomes kind of like this, where we have a range that on a day like today, there's probably 2 or 3 ranges, but at least for now, I see the most confluence when I do it like this. You kind of have a range like that. So even here, you had a trend down, you got the breakout, and a move to a new low. So now you just got to watch and see what it does. But here's the higher low. It's an engulfing bar. We're not buying above the engulfing bar, not putting the limit back. Let's see if it breaks below one more time, then goes higher. There's the break below, and then it just kind of keeps going lower. So kind of a breakout pullback right there. It's kind of a breakout pullback. I'm not sure how to grade this yet. I'm not sure. So it's kind of like a no trade for me, because I don't even know how to put this in context right now. I got to see more information. And then so you get this higher low right there. So it's, the range is still kind of being respected. This is an aggressive trade, not a trade in my playbook currently, but this is an aggressive. It's not that aggressive, but this is a trade. Higher low, off the range lows. Good signal bar, didn't break above. Targets are going to be the scalp and then midline highs. Pretty good risk reward. Stops are going right below the signal bar and then 2 ticks below the entry bar. It's not a bad setup. I don't like how that's set up. Probably didn't get stopped out. But it doesn't break below. You see that? That looked really nasty. But my stop would have been just 2 ticks below there. Never breaks below. Gives a nice push. And you get the midline touch. At this point, you definitely, there's a micro trend. The micro trend is because there's a break, move to a new low. We started below the EMA. Now we're closing above the EMA. And we made a higher swing than the previous swing. So you could probably do it right off there. Here's the failed second entry. This one works because it's not a 3-bar inside play, and even if it is, you know, it could start on this big red bar, so you're at the lows of the congestion. That's going to be from there to there. I don't know why it makes me nervous. Here's a trade, you know. Okay, so with this one, it doesn't trigger, so it's all good. He wouldn't have been in. It's a nice thing, you know. Sometimes the setups are there. You put your setup ready for it. What I do is I have my limit waiting right there. Then when I see it tick above, then I enter it. So if it never ticks above, it never ticks above. Nothing I can do about that. Here's another. So this is, you know, basically what we're saying is that as this thing is pulling back, we were hoping it would trigger here. It didn't. But when it makes this bar, basically the same rules apply, and we're looking for that trigger. Key thing that I think is just real low key is that as this is pulling below, you see how this close is above that wick, right, on this bar? Then on this bar, it breaks below the previous low, then comes back and closes above that previous swing. I like that when it's a failed trap sort of play. Not into it going directly into that EMA, but we haven't gotten any reversal patterns off this high side, and there was a little support. And then once again, we're just looking at risk reward. You know, we're at the lows of this range. We're going to have targets all up in here. So, you know, it's a pretty good setup. You get the scalp so far. Now it's pulling back. Depending on your management, let me see, 1950, 2150. So yeah, depending, like, so my management, I wouldn't have been able to move my stop to break even +1 yet. I would have needed one more tick. Then my stop would have been break even +1. So when it moved, this move, my stop probably is right underneath the screen bar by 2 ticks. So I think I get stopped out. Not I think, I most likely would have got stopped out on that runner. The scalp, I got the scalp, no problem. And then on the runner, probably 2 ticks under here, you get stopped out. Unless I switch something up, but that's just how that goes on that one. It's still a net profitable trade, but, you know, comes back for you. See that little second entry long? I would not take that, but it's there off this high. It's not really a high. No, it's not really a second entry long. Don't worry about it. Basically, that's 12 o'clock. And you see how this trade, depending on how your runner management is, it pulls back and then goes exactly where you need it to go. But the way this pullback happens, there aren't too many ways you would have been able to hold this trade unless for whatever reason you're leaving your stop below your signal bar, which at that point it's probably unnecessary risk. So yeah, it's just one of the it's what the market gave you. It's nothing you can do about things like that. But that's 12 o'clock. Try to take my time on this one, really explain everything. But that's what I saw. Those were the trades I would have taken, and that's the trade I did take. You can see a lot of them, the big risk reward. Look at those risk reward profiles, really nice. Those are going to be the best trades. So cool. That's what I saw today. It's your boy Kamal Hart, out.